Chapter 14 of Shrimadbhagavatam. Arjuna comes back from Dwaraka. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yudhishthira's mind was upset by the recent happenings. To an extent, Narada's words had comforted him, but the evil portents persisted in the skies, and the general uneasiness in his mind indicated to him the dread advent of some great calamity. He could not rest. Narada had said, "The Lord has taken a human form to suppress evil, and his work is ended. You will remain on the earth so long as he remains." These words had made Yudhishthira worry day and night. And again, Arjuna, who had gone with Krishna, had not come back. Several months had passed since he went. Yudhishthira was telling Bhima about his misgivings. He said, "Bhima, I am greatly worried ever since revered Narada told us that the Lord, whose purpose has been served, is ready to lay down the human form he has assumed. Like an actor taking off the clothes he had donned for the role he was playing, my mind is full of fear. Do you think it is possible for our Krishna to go? Krishna, who has been everything to us, do you think he will leave us and go away? I am afraid, very much afraid, that it is to happen, and that very soon. Look at the sudden change for the worse on the face of the earth. People are getting to be more and more inclined towards adharma. Anger, avarice, and untruth seem to be holding sway in the minds of men. People are becoming hypocrites, and their natural love for father and mother and elders is fast on the wane. I am very much afraid that Kali, the fourth quarter, has set foot on the earth, and Mother Earth has lost the glory that has been hers all these years, since the sacred feet of Krishna will no longer adorn her. Bhima, I am afraid." Arjuna came back from Dwaraka. He walked with slow and wary steps towards his brother. His eyes were raining tears, and his face was bent towards the ground. It had no glow on it. He went straight to the king, fell at his feet, and held on to his feet without getting up. Yudhishthira was trembling all over, and his heart would not beat normally. His voice was trembling too as he raised up Arjuna and asked, "Arjuna, what has happened? Are you unwell? Or is your mind unwell because of some pain? What is the matter? Is everyone well at Dwaraka? Tell me, how is our beloved Krishna?" Arjuna was standing silent. His face, like his heart, was drained of all joy, and wiping his eyes with both his hands, he stood for a moment. His mind went to his beloved Krishna, and with his voice choked with tears, he said, "We have been cheated, my Lord. We have been deceived by fate. There is no Krishna in Dwaraka." "Why, there is no Dwaraka?" He fell down in a dead faint. When they brought him back to consciousness, Arjuna composed himself and told them how all the Yadavas had been killed, and how no trace of them was left any more on the earth, how the city itself went under the sea after the death of Krishna. They gave him time to gather his scattered senses, and they needed time to digest this terrible news. Later, bit by bit, they got all the details of the tragedy at Prabhasa. Even as he was recounting the glories of Krishna, Arjuna found a strange sense of peace pervading his being. His mind became clear and calm, and there came to him a sense of detachment. Incessant thinking on the feet of the Lord had cleared his mind of all agitations. Years back, Krishna had taught him that Brahma Vidya, and that on the battlefield now, and perhaps only now, after all these years, Arjuna found that he had finally understood what Krishna was trying to tell him. He knew how that sorrow is caused by the illusion of plurality. the feeling that the Jiva is other than the Paramatman. The reason for this plurality is the human body, which is made up of the elements. And the other cause is the combination of the three gunas. Avidya, ignorance of truth, is the basis of this plurality. And when avidya is destroyed by comprehension of reality, all the other things vanish of their own accord. Yudhishthira became silent after the tragedy hit him. What had happened at Dwaraka only confirmed his worst fears, and his mind had already been anticipating the news about the end of Krishna. Ever since Narada came and went, Yudhishthira had lost his peace of mind, and now he realized that his mind was still, without any agitations. He remembered what Narada had told him. You will remain on this earth only as long as Krishna does. Yudhishthira's thoughts were now bent on the other world. The moment Kunti heard about the death of Krishna, she dropped down dead, and her soul, which was ever thinking on him, became one with him. Calmly, Yudhishthira made preparations for the final journey. He crowned Parikshith the monarch. Vajra, the son of Aniruddha, was crowned in Mathura. Yudhishthira then gave away all his wealth and his personal belongings. Dressed in barks, with his hair matted, he walked out of the palace. He looked like one demented. So devoid of all expression was his face. He spoke to no one, not even to his dear brothers. Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula and Sahadeva followed him. With their minds bent on the feet of the Lord, they travelled northwards and reached the heavens, which held for them all that had been taken away from them on earth. Om Shri Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Chapter 15 of Shrimadbhagavath. The cow and the lame bull. When Parikshith was born, Dhaumya and Kripa had cast his horoscope. They told Yudhishthira that the child had a glorious future. He will be like Ikshvaku, the son of Manu. They said, he will honor Brahmins, and he will be truth-speaking like Rama, the son of Dasharatha. Like Shibi, he will be a giver, and as for his glory and fame, they will be spread to the four quarters like that of Bharata, the son of Dushyanta. In archery, he will be as great as Arjuna and Kartavirya. He will be as stately as Himavan and as patient as Mother Earth. His courage will be that of Bali, and his devotion of Narayana will equal that of Prahlada. He will perform the Ashwamedha, and he will learn Brahma Vidya from Shuka, the illustrious son of Vyasa. His name will be remembered on the earth so long as the sun and moon move in their orbits. After he was crowned, Parikshith justified the words of the rishis. He ruled his kingdom just as well as Yudhishthira had been doing. He married Iravati, the daughter of Uttarakumara, and Janamejaya was his eldest son. On the banks of the river Ganga, he performed the Ashwamedha Yaga. There was great pain in the heart of the king, since he saw the influence of Kali increasing day by day. He wanted to fight with Kali, destroy him and restore to the earth her past glory and beauty when his grandfather ruled the earth. Once, on the banks of Saraswati, a bull was talking to a cow. The cow looked emaciated, and she looked like she had lost her calf. Tears were flowing from her eyes. The bull was meowed. He was limping on just one leg. He went near her and said, "Why are you weeping? Why do you look so despondent? You look sick, my dear. It seems to me it is a malaise of the mind. I can see that some intense pain is gnawing at your vitals. Are you mourning the loss of someone very dear to you? Are you weeping because you cannot bear to see me with three of my legs broken? Are you weeping at the thought that low-born Shudras instead of Kshatriyas will rule you in the days to come? Are you sorry for the Devas who will be denied their share of the Havis in the Yagnas, since Yagnas will not be performed anymore? O Mother Earth, are you sad because Indra will not wet you with rain hereafter? Are you sad about the decay of Dharma? Are you dreading the future when men will no longer protect the women? When parents will not be respected by their children? Are you sad because Goddess Saraswati will have to live in the homes of sinful Brahmins? Or because high-born Brahmins will do menial service to their inferiors? Or are you mourning the fate of mankind, which will be so immersed in sin, the gratification of the senses, that it will never think of the Lord? I know why you are sad. The Lord has been with you, and He removed the burden which was choking you. He destroyed adharma and relieved you. But when He went away, dharma went with Him. That, I am sure, is the cause of your unhappiness. Time, the arch enemy of all, has stolen your glory, and the pain in your heart is because of the thoughts of the future. Am I right? The earth raised her tear-filled eyes to the bull and said, Lord Dharma, you know only too well what lies behind this pain of mine. Your questions only serve to make my wounds bleed anew. The Lord has left me, and I am pinning for Him. The moment He went away, righteousness left me, and with it all the noble qualities for which I have been the home of all these years. I am mourning for you and all that you once stood for. The Lord, who was the home of all that is beautiful, good and pure, has left me, and I am dreading the progress of Kali. In the form of Krishna, the Lord had placed His dear feet on me, and He walked on me. I was so beautiful then because He had sanctified me. I had become proud, perhaps of my good fortune. To punish me, he has left me, and I do not know what I should do. The memory of those glorious days makes me weep, the more because I weep in vain. As they were thus engaged, out of nowhere a low-born man who was dressed in the garments of a Kshatriya approached the couple. He began to harass them. With a stick he was trying to break the one remaining leg of the bull. King Parikshith, who was coming near the place in a chariot, saw this terrible scene and hurried to the spot. He had his bow in his hand, and his other hand was already in the quiver, picking out an arrow. The sight of the cow brought tears to his eyes. In a terrible voice he addressed the assailant. How can you behave like this? How is it possible for such injustice to take place in my kingdom? In the land which was once ruled by the great Yudhishthira? How could you pluck up courage enough to commit this atrocity when I am king? He comforted the cow and the bull and said, Whoever you may be, you are rid of this sinner who has been harassing you. I am going to kill him. Be rid of your fears. Poor bull, tell me who cut off your other legs. Dharma looked at him and said, It is but fitting that a scion of the great Kuru house should speak thus. You are the descendant of those great men for whom the Lord Himself took up the role of a messenger of peace, the role of a charioteer. As for our condition, we do not really know who is really responsible for it. When I look around me, I become faint with the many forms of dharma which people talk about. There are the atheists who say, man himself is the master of his fate. The gods have neither the power nor the right to influence the lives of men on earth. Nothing governs man except his ego. There are some others who ascribe everything to the 9 planets, the grahas. They say that fate and grahacharya are but synonyms. Some others talk about karma and say that karma is what matters. Karma it is, which is responsible for everything. And again, there are those who say that one's good or bad fortune is the consequence of one's own nature, swabhava, and nothing else. There are still very few, however, who maintain that there is a God who is beyond the ken of human thought and that he is responsible for everything. Consider, O king, all these views, and you should yourself make up your mind as to who is responsible for this state of affairs. As for me, I really do not know. The king considered his words for a moment and spoke with a smile. He said, the Shastras say that the Naraka, which is waiting for the perpetrator of adharma, is meant also for him who mentions the name of the wrongdoer. A truly righteous person will never betray the name of the sinner. You speak words befitting a person who knows the nuances of dharma. The more I think on it, the more I am convinced that you are Dharma himself and no one else. Only you can trace so vividly the depth of purity on the earth. It has been said that penance, that is tapas, cleanliness, that is saucha, compassion, that is daya, and truth, that is satya, are the four legs of dharma. I repeat, it has been said that tapas, saucha, daya, and satya are the four legs of dharma. Pride is responsible for the destruction of tapas. Maya, indulgence, and arrogance for that of the other two. In the Kali Yuga, man can be said to practice dharma only by the observance of truth, and that is the one leg on which you are standing. This Kali is trying to kill truth and replace it with his weapons, untruth. I know why Mother Earth is weeping. She is comparing the golden age when the Lord walked on her with the days to come when sinners will rule over her. But be without fear. I am going to kill Kali. The king dropped his bow and taking up a sword in his hand, he rushed towards Kali. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 16 of Shrimadbhagavatam, The Haunts of Kali. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Kali shed his disguise and dropped at the feet of the king and begged for mercy. Parikshith said, You know that I will not hurt you now that you have fallen at my feet. I have been born in the family of Arjuna, and I will not hurt a suppliant. But you are a dear kinsman of adharma, and so I command that you should no longer be here. You should not exist in the country where I rule. I cannot brook your presence. Once you are given a chance to stay, your many companions will join you. Avarice, untruth, theft, unrighteousness, hypocrisy, quarrelsomeness, and in short, all that is ugly and hateful. I do not want any of you in my kingdom. Trembling with fear, Kali said, My lord, the entire earth is ruled by you. Where can I go? God, who created good, has also created evil, which is but the shadow of good. I have to exist somewhere since I have been created. Tell me where I should go, and I will obey you. The king thought over his words and said, What you say is right. You can go and thrive where the name of the Lord is forgotten. You can go where there is gambling, drinking, lustfulness, and the desire to kill. I repeat, the king thought over his words and said, What you say, Kali, is right. You can go and thrive where the name of the Lord is forgotten. You can go where there is gambling, drinking, lustfulness, and the desire to kill. Kali said, Point out to me a single spot where all these are present, and I will go there. Gold, said the king. Gold will propagate avarice, untruth, arrogance, lustfulness, ruthlessness, and hatred. These five will be the places, and so gold will be the place where you will be allowed to live. Kali went away from there to the places mentioned. This is why the wise say that Kamini and Kanchana are the two dread enemies which are lying in wait to destroy man. The words spoken by Kali are worth studying. He says that he is also created by the Lord, and so there is a purpose behind his creation. Kali is made to live in places where thoughts of the Lord are absent. The Lord himself is forgotten. True enough, but as Kunti said, give us misfortunes all the time so that we may think of you. Man is lost in the enjoyment of worldly pleasures. If he is a success in life, he ascribes it all to himself and not to his good fortune. Never, however, if and when trouble comes, when man is in distress, then the mind becomes pliable. Suffering melts the hardened core of the ego. When something is achieved, the ego comes forward and takes the credit. But when there is failure, the ego must necessarily be pushed to the background and humility makes its appearance. The ego surrenders itself completely, admitting defeat, and the Lord, who is present in the heart always, but has been hidden by avarana, shines resplendent. It is when one is in trouble that thoughts of the Lord come to the mind, and Kali meant this, perhaps when he said that there is a purpose behind his creation. People will walk in evil paths and forget the Lord completely, and Kali helps them in this. But the backsliding is really to save the soul. When they are hurt and sorely tried, men will turn their minds towards the Lord and be saved. This is what Kali means when he says evil is but the shadow of good. Om Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 17 of Shrimadbhagavatam, Shringi's Curse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Once King Parikshith went out hunting. While chasing a deer, he lost his way. Overcome with thirst, hunger and fatigue, he wandered about. Finally, he saw an ashrama at a distance. He hurried towards it. He went inside and shouted for someone. The king found the place empty, or so he thought. Walking around the place, he found a rishi who was absorbed in meditation. His eyes were closed. He had brought his senses and his breath under control, and he was oblivious to the world around him. His hair was matted and he was wearing the skin of a deer. The king spoke to him and asked him for water. He received no response. Again and again he asked for water, and he found that the rishi persisted in his silence. With his mind clouded by his physical anguish and his ego hurt by the seeming indifference of the rishi, the king lost his temper. He looked around and found a dead snake lying on the ground. In a perverse frame of mind, Parikshith lifted the dead snake with the tip of his bow. Placing it on the neck of the rishi, he walked away from there. Still, Shamika, the great rishi, did not wake up from his trance. Shamika had a young son by name Shringi. Some of his playmates went to Shringi and said, "You think so highly of yourself, but you must swallow your pride hereafter, since you are, after all, the son of a man who carries corpses." Shringi glared at them, and laughingly they told him about the condition of his father, about the dead snake which was placed round the neck of the rishi by the king of the country. Young Shringi's anger was uncontrollable. He said, "This arrogant king has insulted my father. I will punish him. A week from today, the dread serpent Takshaka will sting him and he will die." He then rushed to his father's presence and wailed aloud. His voice roused the rishi from samadhi. He opened his eyes and saw the dead snake on his shoulders. Pushing it aside casually, he said, "My son, why are you crying? Did anyone hurt you?" Shringi told him what had happened, and he also told him about his cursing the king. Shamika was very angry with his son for this hasty action. In his anger, he had cursed a good man. He said, "You are young and you do not know how to restrain yourself. You were too harsh. Why did you curse that king who is the best among men? Do you not know that he is a righteous king? Because he was hungry and thirsty, and again because I did not answer his questions, he threw the snake on my neck in sheer disgust. It was a childish gesture and should have been treated as such. This is not reason enough for you to pronounce such a dreadful curse on him." This Paurava king has been called Vishnu Ratha since the Lord himself protected him when he was in his mother's womb. Because of him, the world is protected from the threat of Kali. You have made the earth lose her very precious son because of your impulsiveness. I ask you to leave this place and perform tapas until you learn self-control. Now that you have cursed him, the good king will have to die. Let me at least warn him of his impending doom and give him a chance to prepare himself for the other world. The king, in the meantime, returned to his kingdom. He was feeling unhappy about his stupid action. He knew that he had committed an unpardonable sin. When he was in this frame of mind, there came to him a disciple of Shamika by name Gauramukha, who told him about the curse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.